Okay, guys, welcome to another Comic Talk. This is Alex. Today I'm going to talk about slabbing. So, I'm going to get into a little bit about what I've been hearing in the industry. A lot of YouTubers that I listen to, everybody from Sticky Goose to comic book investments. There's a bunch of them. I mean, all of them, Swaggle House. They're all out there and they're all talking about whether slabbing is a good idea or if now, today, raw comics is the way to go. Be right back. Okay, so this is being recorded in January, so I hope you guys had a great holiday. I hope you had fun. I hope you got what you wanted as far as gifts and exchanges and such. And I think that we're beginning to see a little bit of a turnaround in the comic book market. It's slow, definitely not something to be writing home about. But I do want to talk about a subject that I think has become overblown, and I'll explain my reasons for it. I think there's a lot of people, myself included, that had raw comics the better part of their entire collecting history. I mean, I probably had better non. I think my first slabbed comics was an All Winners 7 that I had a 7.0 on that I sold already. It's a fantastic book. I bought it slabbed and I thought it was fantastic because I realized that if I wanted to sell something and I wanted to sell something that was not something that the individual buyer was holding in their hands reviewing with me, the only way I could do it to satisfy their confidence that I was giving them a book in the grade that I was giving it to them would be by slabbing. So I started really slabbing as I got closer and closer to thinking about creating this channel and getting on eBay. And I did that somewhere around 2012, 2013, and got more and more into it over the last decade. So, having said that, I want to go through a couple of my slabbed books. There are books that you want to slab, and then books that let me see. There you go. That you really don't care to slab. This is one of the ones that I think is important for individuals to slab. Anything Golden Age, I think, should be slabbed. I think Golden Age is, first of all, rare enough. Second of all, valuable enough that slabbing makes sense. Because, yes, there's a point at which slabbing your comics may not make a lot of sense. I think that a lot of individuals will slab their comics because they want to save them for their collection, and that's quite all right. But I think when you're talking about rare comics that either don't come up often um, for you to be able to get them, or just in general, if you want to preserve them because they are part of the history of comic book collecting. Here's Human Torch 33, I think, yeah, Human Torch 33, 5.5, very nice copy. This is one of my best ECs, and I mean by grade, right? It's an 8.0. Let's see, this is 1954 shock suspense story, and it's one of the ones that was in Seduction of the Innocent. If you don't know about Seduction of the Innocent, which is its acronym is SOTI, and you'll see that sometimes on in either comic book YouTube's discussions or even in your um, imprint, and that is put there by CGC. Those comics were the ones that were part of a congressional hearing committee that caused a lot of comic book burning, and one of the reasons why EC went out of business. EC Comics, one of my favorite all-time comics, and I think probably the one line of comics that I would love to completely collect. And not just the horror. I mean, I like all the ECs. Here's an example of a non-horror EC. And the reason I love them is the artwork. EC artwork is unbelievable. These are some of the greatest artists, and it was because of William Gaines. He actually went out and found the best artists of his time, including people like Frank Frazetta, Joe Orlando. I mean, Johnny Craig, just unbelievable artists that really defined the industry. And at a time when artwork in the golden age was hit or miss in many cases, EC Comics were definitely always a hit. Now, you know, I've shown you golden age comics, but I want to show you some other comics I think are worth. Give me 1 second here, just a few of these. Um, I want to show you some comics that I think are worth also encapsulating. Here's one example, right? This is the new symbiote suit at the time. It's not the first appearance. First appearance was Amazing Spider-Man 252, which I do have back there. But this was from a chronological, historical perspective within the canon of Marvel. That this Secret Wars was supposed to be the first time Spider-Man got the suit. In the actual release of comic books, 252 and then Marvel Team Up, I think, were the ones that came before. They actually came quite some time before because of the sequence that they were doing the series, and when they were going to release Secret Wars, it happened that in Secret Wars it happened first because they were telling a story that happened before current runs of series. So the current runs of series already had incorporated some of the Secret Wars um, concepts and aspects. Here's another Silver Age. So, guys, to the topic at hand, why encapsulate and why not encapsulate? Okay, first, this this right here is a raw comic. Yes, every single comic on in Earth that has ever been printed is a raw comic. All I have to do is break open the slab. So if I break open the slab, I got a raw comic. So what's the situation with raw comics and versus slab comics? Well, there's a lot of discussion about you want to read your comics. You don't want to just save your comics. Look, to be honest with you, let me show you one other thing. For example, here's an example. Hairfire Club, X-Men. If I want to read it, I read this. I read any one of the trades. Reading a trade is a way that you can get the enjoyment of having a raw comic. Plus, it doesn't take my 7.0 and turn it into a 6.5 or a 5.5 because I'm reading it. So at the end of the day, if I want to sell this to someone on eBay, they can rest assured that at least from CGC, they're getting a validation on the fact that I'm saying it's a 7.0. They can then sell it like other 7.0s. They can go to the different sites that carry comic book and historical sales and see what 7.0s are selling for, and they can feel confident about buying this. When you buy a raw comic, you got to take the guy's word for it, especially if you're doing it online. And then you get a situation that I've seen before where somebody gets a comic book and they disagree. So what does the seller have to do? They have to undergrade. They have to see, okay, this is a 7.0. I'm going to say it's a 6.5 because if I say it's a 7.0 and the guy thinks it's a 6.5, he's going to ask for a refund or so. It just goes on and on and on. And it's happened to me. More so, it's happened to me in the sense of um, I mean, I gotta say, I'm not a big seller. I'm not a dealer. I'm a collector that sells so that I can buy more comics in the area that I want. I'm trying to sell my modern, and to me, modern is bronze. I don't collect new comics very rarely. I mean, I've picked up some of the Fantastic Four, some of the Legion of Superheroes, because I find those that the ones that I like, and I'll just pick them up. Like when Archie had the entire zombie series. I picked up the whole thing. I thought it was great because I love the zombies. I like Marvel Zombies, but Marvel Zombies is really copper. if I'm not mistaken. I think it falls under the copper designation. But at the end, the real issue is I sell my comics so that I can collect what I want, and what I want right now is what I was talking about, which is Golden Age. Golden Age is what I focus on, and I also focus on what's behind me, um, original art. And the reason I like original art is because with original art, it's one of a kind. I mean, you don't see it too well, but these down here, these are Fawcett comics from the 1950s, early 50s. Um, that there's no way you can find this, and when you find it, it's rare. And not only is it rare, this is the only version of this comic. I mean, of this page. Every single original art, there's only one of. When you have it, you've got it. The issue with original art is because there's only one of it, it's a little harder to price it. It's almost like pricing Picasso's or any kind of artwork. It's in the values in the eye of the beholder. You can have your value set. You can look at the trends overall of art, but you can't say that issue sold, or that page sold for this, because there's no historical um, tracking of original art. At least not yet. I'm sure it's going to be starting because more and more people are discovering original art. And when I originally got into original art was back in the mid 2000s, like 2005, 2004, and even a little bit earlier, maybe in the 1990s. And I was just stunned that you can actually hold in your hand the the page that was put into a comic book. And that's why I went through the trouble of having these framed. These are all from the 80s. And you've got the pages down here, the comic book that these pages belong to, and then the original art above it. And in this case, this is from the Marvel Zombies run in Ultimate Fantastic Four. So it's this. And you've got the original art with the comic book, and then I put the page. And these are just the ways that I've framed them. I think it's pretty cool. I've actually seen some people do very similar things now. I think the Golden Age Guru, it has, I've seen some of it. I think I've seen him do something very similar to this. So again, I think it's absurd that people think that slabbing your books is something that's hurting the industry. I don't see how that's even possible. I think it's helped the industry. When I was growing up, and collectors of my age, I've been collecting now, I want to say maybe 50, 52, 53 years, since I was 9 years old. I'm 62 right now. Um, and the entire time I collected, the concept of condition up until like 19, I want to say around 1980, the concept of condition was never that important. It was graded in, it was good, it was fine, or it was mint. That was it. And poor, you can say poor, but poor was garbage, right? It was trash that you got because you wanted to have that original book and you couldn't afford anything else. Um, so, we used to buy them in those broad categories. So, right now, if you have a 2 through a 5, that would have been what we thought was good. If you have a 5.5, let's say, through an 8, that's what we thought was fine. And if you had 8.5 through a 10, we called it mint. That was it. That was it. I mean, if you had a couple of hits on it, but the comic book was in really good shape, the corners were good, the inside was good, it was glossy, it was, it looked fresh. That to us was a mint comic. So when the critical analysis of comic condition started to take off, which really started in the 2000s, in my opinion. It was coming into the 90s and late 80s, but realistically, that ferociousness with condition started when the Overstreet Price Guide decided to start breaking down the prices to maybe 6, 7, or maybe even 8 categories where they would have the 7.5, the 5.0, and something like that. I don't remember exactly. I've got all of the comic book price guides over there and I can go find out. But honestly, it doesn't matter. It's just that it was an evolution. And when Overstreet started evolving to getting more and more on condition, I think when Wizard magazine came out, it became more important because Wizard magazine was trying to lure newer collectors, and newer collectors wanted their books in the very best condition. They weren't reading them; they were collecting them as investments. That's when the whole criticality of the condition is. And I have no problem with investments as comics. I'm not an investor, just a guy on YouTube, like everybody says. It's just my opinion, and I collect and I do sell, but I do it because I enjoy the hobby. I've always enjoyed it. So, is Raw better than Slab? Honestly, impossible. Why? Because being slabbed is a Raw comic being slabbed. So you've got both. Being Raw is not a slabbed comic. It's not a graded comic. It's an opinion graded comic. And it's very difficult for people to feel assured and confident of purchasing something like that. So, I just wanted to cover this. I hope it makes sense. I think it's a little absurd that we're attacking slap comics the way we are. And I understand there's a lot of people that may not like it. They want to keep their comics. Keep your comics, guys, because here's what's going to happen. The day you sell them, I'll buy them and they'll be a lot cheaper. I look for raws. I look for raws all the time because when I have to buy a slab, it's going to cost me more money. So if I see a raw that I think looks good, they've taken close up pictures, and I want to roll the dice, I go after it. But you know when I go after it? When it's way under market of what it would be if it was slabbed. Because then I'm sure that even if the grading is a little off, I can always slab it and get more money for it, or at least have the return on the investment I made that is equal to what that investment was. So, guys, again, Alex here. Hope you enjoyed this. Please hit the like button. Please share. Um, subscribe if you like the content. I'm going to be making more. It's a little tough. I'm really busy. I have a full time job, so it's a little difficult. But at the same time, I find this to be a hobby that I've loved forever. So I really like sharing with you guys. I don't do live videos. I don't really have the time. I don't want the day I retire, I will create a channel like Reggie Collects or something like that where you come on and you talk to people because I'll have nothing better to do, guys. Right now, I make no money on this. This is just for fun. So if you can help by hitting the like button and subscribing to my channel, great. If not, I hope this content at least was gave you some information that maybe can help you in your collecting. Again, thanks a lot, and I will see you soon.